Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So for today I have the elliptical weave January 25 glimmer of the month, which also came with Aura hot foil, which I've already put onto a piece of cardstock. And I have the soaring dragonfly, which is also from the from the January 25 kit, the A2 waffle flower layers dies, and the heart card front. I'm using the little label from that, as well as the background stamp from Hero Arts, which is like a bold scripty stamp. So I'm going to pop the background stamp onto its back, and using some Kitsch Flamingo Distress Oxide ink, I'm going to ink up the stamp itself, and then I will bring the hot foiled piece of paper onto, or cardstock onto, and flip it onto the stamp. So that's how it foiled. It's beautiful. I love it. I flipped it onto that, and then I'm gently using my fingers around the edge, trying not to get too much ink on my hands. You can have a piece of paper towel over the top of that to prevent it getting on your hands, and just rubbing around the edge, and then it just transfers that ink onto and that stamped image onto your piece of paper or cardstock. So it's an old technique. It's been around for years. We used to just do this all the time. So it's a really nice and easy way to use your big stamps. So I'm going to put that to one side so that the oxide can dry a bit, because it is an oxide, and by nature it is quite it takes a lot longer to dry. It's kind of like a combo of pigment and dye ink, for those who don't know. So it does take a little while to dry. So what I have here is now the dragonfly. Now there's two wings, well, there's three wings. There's a solid wing, and then there is the wing that has the detail cut out, which is on, you can see in the black there, which you could use to inlay, which would make a really great card as well. And there is also one that looks kind of like stripes, I guess. So I'm going to do the stripy one. I've cut it out of two shades of like a peachy orangey color, and I'm going to this did take a little while, I will admit, but I'm going to take each color and alternate the colors, so that I have this just a bit of interest and a bit of contrast in the color in the stripes, and then I'm going to lay the sort of detailed wing over the top of that, again just for a bit of fun and a bit of interest. This did take a little while, like I say, because I could not get my eye in because there's two different size wings, and of course I cut them all out at the same time and put them in a big pile, so I had to dig through all of them. So there's probably a better way to do that, to organize yourself with them, so it's not so time consuming. But yeah, this did take me a little while, and also I was looking for the opposite color to the one that I wanted. So yeah, it took just as long. It just took a long time. Once I get there, it does look good. So once I have the pieces, I've nearly done this wing. I won't put you through sitting through all of them. I will do those off camera, the rest of the wings, to save time and to save, your sanity. And yeah, and like I say, once you get in the zone with it, it's actually easy. You sort of start to see the shape of the pieces, if that makes sense. So it works out quite well. So this last piece is proving difficult. But I do eventually find it. She says. Hey. So once I've got this last piece stuck down, I can then add the top layer, which is the sort of detailed. So you could have the wings like that as well, but I just like the way that it looked over the top. I thought it was a bit mad, really, like I was going to say psychedelic, but it's not psychedelic. But you know, like a sort of a groovy, groovy sort of vibe to it. I don't know why. Anyway, so I got some wet adhesive on the back of this sort of more delicate wing, which this on again, if you put this onto like a solid piece of vellum or something like that, that could look really pretty, or a shimmery vellum, something like that. So that's one wing. I've got 3 more of those to do. Wish me luck. But I thought what I'll do is I'll show you how to get the dragonfly body together. Very easy. There was a base piece which I did in black, and then I did a pink and a sort of lighter pink for his main body and head, or sort of like the face part of him. And so the body just fits as it says on the body part. It just literally layers on top. So very, very simple. And then for the head, there is a specific way that the little, this tiny little pink piece goes. But once you've got it, if you know what I mean. So I got that stuck on there as well. So that's the main head. And by putting that little pink piece on, it then creates the eyeballs. So you're not dealing with teeny tiny little eyeballs, because no one wants that. So just lining them up a bit. And then I just used my my glue thing to sort of stick them. So that's going to be the wing. So we've got pinks and oranges for some reason. So this is the background piece, all that beautiful foil, all that cool scripty background. And then there's all the wings and the body, all nice and dry now. I've also cut out the sentiment. In this foil set, the sentiments, often what spellbinders do is they have the sentiments like a coordinating die for the sentiments. In this one they didn't. I think the idea is that you would put one of the sentiments in the middle of the pattern, the hot foil. So if you look on the left there's kind of like a central area that's sort of open, and I think the idea is that you could then foil your sentiment in the middle there, and have the rest of this beautiful foiling, you know, around it. So that's my guess. Don't quote me on it. So I used that Valentine's, there was a little label die in there. I just used that to cut the For You sentiment out. So again, this is kind of, it's not a lovey-dovey thing, but it's kind of like a thinking of you, for you kind of card where you could send some love to someone if they need it, or kind of like a hug. I was going to say a hug and a mug, but it's a hug and a card. So yeah, so trying to get my wings on here, and I don't know why this was so difficult for me, but it was. So I used the packaging as a guide, and that's where a lot of the companies will put in not only like how to put some of the die cuts and that together, but they will also give you color ideas and design ideas and all that on there. But it does help when you have to know where to put things like wings. So I got that, got them on there, got them stuck down. They do need a little time to dry, because obviously they're only on the tips of the wings in one little place, so I needed to let them sit for a bit before I really moved them around. But at the same time, I got my foam on the back of them. I decided to pop up the entire dragonfly, and I'm actually using like leftover foam. So if you've got like pop dots or foam dots, whatever you want to call them, and they come in, you have to kind of dig out each foam dot from the packaging. The background, the like leftovers, that's still all sticky and double-sided tape, foam. So don't waste it. Just cut it up and use it. So that's what I'm doing. So that's why it looks, the shapes look all weird. So these were from some foam dots, which I got to say I'm nearly out of, and I really like these ones. I think they were just from a local store or something. So yeah, that's my foam dot saga. So getting all these little bits of foam on here, again, takes a little while, but it's not the end of the world. And I like how bit of dimension just gives it a little bit of lift, as it were. Another little piece for his head, because the head's quite small. And also bear in mind that different foam will be different heights. So even if it's the same sort of height, if it's a different company, it might be slightly different. So just bear that in mind when you're trying to add foams from different companies, because you might have some smaller ones and some bigger ones and things like that to sort of mix and match. If the heights are slightly out, your whole piece might sit a little wonky. So just bear that in mind. If it doesn't bother you, don't worry about it. And that stuff bothers me. So that's why I'm letting you know. So once I have this on this little sort of card front, that's, and I add the sentiment, that's going to be it. And what I'm sort of doing now is making not full cards. I'm making kind of card fronts, or postcards, I think is what I'm calling them. And so I can pop this straight onto an A2 size card. It's going to be, this panel is slightly smaller than an A2, so I think it's probably like a 4 by 5.25 sort of size. So it just makes it nice and easy if you want to store these, or you want to get some creative stuff going, but you, like me, don't get, to send all your cards out. She says, slapping her hand. Then you've got them on hand if you wanted to make a card. And I just love the bling on this one. I thought this made sense with the Dragonfly. So another thing I wanted to add, because I felt like the Dragonfly wasn't blingy enough or at all. So I brought in some glossy accents. Glossy accents is sort of a 3-dimensional, super clear. You can use it as glue, but it creates this lovely shine on things. So you can use it for things like eyeballs, which I'm going to do here, or any accents. You can even just drop it onto like a flower or something in sort of little drops, and it could look like dewdrops on the flower, because it will dry super clear. So at the moment this looks a bit milky. It will dry completely clear, like I say. So I decided to then put this in all the sort of the black pattern on the Dragonfly on his body, and I then had to clean up a bit. And my glossy accents, we have an argument every time I have to open it because it's always blocked. And then I don't know whether there's something inside this one, maybe a little bit of the old dried stuff, excuse me. But it wasn't acting how it normally should. It should be quite fluid, but thick. So it's not going to be runny. But this kind of looked and felt like it had something else in it as well. So it was a little bit like jelly. So maybe it's just too old. I don't know. But when it dried fine. But it was just a bit like, that's not what I thought it was going to be like. Anyway, waffle over. So I'm adding some extra to that now that I've moved things around, because I used that's the Tim Holtz paper piercer, I think it's called. It's just like a long pointed thing. Careful with it, because I've stabbed myself a few times. And if you just use the tip of that, and you can either get any excess off, or you can move it into the tiny little corners, because sometimes they're a little hard to get to with the nozzle on those sort of bottles. So I'm just cleaning up a little bit around the edges, and then that should be it. And I actually thought that first one where I am right now, that looks like a moon. So I think if you cut that out, or even the top of the body there, that looks like a moon. So if you needed a teeny tiny little moon, you could use that section. So there you go. So I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. I know I've waffled a bit for this, but I think this is really, really cool. It is time consuming because there's a lot of die cut pieces. Once, especially if you're doing different colors for each section. but I love the background. I think the background is really cool. You could do that in multiple colours. You could colour it in. You could do all sorts of things. So I hope you've enjoyed this, guys, and bye for now.